I'm Carole Bartholomeaux, and we're in Phoenix, Arizona. It is the fifth largest city in the country, which I never thought my hometown would be. I'm a professional woman, but more than that, I'm a community activist. I was 4 years old when we moved to Phoenix from Tucson, and my mother, who never learned to drive, took me along to raise funds for the Cancer Society, the Heart Society, March of Dimes. She was in the first Mother's March in the whole country. You name it, she was volunteering. Mental health, she was volunteering. So that just became a part of who I was. I was in college at Arizona State, and there were a lot of rapes on campus, and the campus police weren't doing anything about it. So some other women and I started the Center Against Sexual Assault. I was also contacted by a friend who was an attorney who had known me when I was married and said, you know, we want to get a domestic violence law passed in Arizona, and I can't find anyone who can speak about it because these women are so afraid. Until I met you, I thought all women who were victims of domestic violence came from the wrong side of the tracks, had no education, whatever. Will you talk? And I had to think about it because I had put this behind me because it was very painful, and I decided that I had to. My mother had always said that God gives us burdens so that we can help those less fortunate than ourselves. And so I felt that I had to do this, and became the voice behind the domestic violence bill. What's really a shock is to find out that the person that you married, who swore that they would love and honor and cherish you, and you weigh 98 pounds and they weigh 250 pounds, and they're beating you up. But we went to counseling, and this young priest, both of us had gone together and then individually, and I came after Steve one time, and the priest, I was sitting in a chair like this, and the priest leaned his hands on either side of the chair and got in my face and said, "You have got to leave him. He is going to kill you. I will help you get an annulment, but you have got to leave him, and you've got to leave him now." And this was on a Saturday, and I filed on Monday. I needed that okay from the church to, you know, it's just inbred. And I didn't, and at the same time that I needed that, I didn't want other women to go through that because they needed it. I wanted to be able to speak out. So several years later, when this attorney friend of mine came to me and said, you know, I need you to speak out, the time was right. There are some days like Superbowl Sunday, the deadliest day of the year for victims of domestic violence. I guess these guys, you know, they've got all these vicarious thrills watching these professional athletes knock each other around the football stadium, and maybe they've bet money on a game and their team is losing. I don't know what the rationale is. I just know that it is true. And that's something every year, you know, we've had several years around the Super Bowl here in Phoenix, we've had 2 to 5 women with children, with 5 to 7, 8 children killed in front of their children on Super Bowl Sunday. Through my roommate, I called up the captain of the police academy, and I said, "Would you like me to interview you?" And he said, "Would you?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I interviewed him, and then I got 2 of the TV stations to interview him as well. So we completely covered what was really the truth at the academy. So he called me, you know, a couple weeks later and said, "How can I ever thank you?" Well, I was on the CASA board, the sexual assault board, and I said, "Well, you know, we have a real problem with some of your officers not wanting to work with the victims of sexual assault." He said, "Would you teach a class at the academy?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't know what. The first thing about teaching a class at the academy. Oh yeah, sure, I'll be glad to. So for 3 years, I taught a class to every one of the classes that were there. I taught the recruits how to deal with victims of sexual assault. Some of the officers felt that as a male, they really could not be sensitive enough. So they felt that they needed to have a female officer. And I said, look, you are the first quote-unquote normal male they've seen since they've been attacked. They need you. They need you. And that changed their attitude. One of the officers I knew from that said, you know, we've opened up plea to having some corporate members. Would you like to be a corporate member of plea? And I said, sure. So I wrote my check and I became a corporate member. And then 2 years ago, when Mark Spencer and his guys were elected to head the board, I went to them. They were having a lot of issues with this non-chief that we have, and I said, you know, I'd really like to put together a marketing program for you. And they said, well, tell me what it's going to be. And I said, well, I'll write it up for you. So I did, and they considered it, and I went to work for them, and I've been working for them ever since. I think that we are the most generous people in the world. We give to every charity, to every disaster anywhere in the world. We send our young men and women off to fight and die in all corners of the world because we really do care. We're so grateful for this country that we're in. And so it's really important that the generation behind us, you have children, your children and their children learn the importance of volunteering, because especially when you have an economy like the one today, you cannot achieve all these things without volunteers. It's impossible. You cannot sit back and expect. People will say to me, well, the government will take care of it. Oh, the government will pay for that. The government doesn't pay for anything. It comes out of my pocket and your pocket. We have to take control back of our country. And the only way to do that is to get involved. Whatever your politics, you know, whether you're on the side of the czars or the side of the teabag people, get involved. Find something that you're passionate about and get involved. Get some other people together and start something. It doesn't matter if you're a female, the color of your skin, your religion, nationality, whatever. All the time I go on blogs and people write something to the effect of, well, I can't change anything, I'm just one person. That's not true. You can change it. You can change it.